Hey, folks. Thank you, guys and gals, for watching and listening to the Ultimate Perform Show, the show about performing your best in business and life. I'm very excited to have my guest on the show again after about 3 years, right? We guessed it was about 3 years. Was it April,
Yeah,
you
it's
said?
2000. It was 2018. Yeah, exactly.
2018, yeah. And Mitchell Levy, he's going to be sharing a lot, right? He's author of over 60 books. Is that real? 60 books?
65 to be exact.
65 now.
Yeah,
Oh, you
this
need
is
to update.
but I say over 60, so this is my 65th book, right?
Oh
That
yeah,
I'm
you do say over 60. That's true. I'm still trying to get my one out. I'm like, oh, I'm not in the mood right now. Maybe you could address that again for people that are dealing with the same thing, right? I think I have about
sure.
60 pages in my book, and you have about as many books as I have pages. Um, so a little introduction. Mitchell Levy is a global credibility expert, and he's also you've been to TEDx twice now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. He's a speaker, international best-selling author, as we said, over 60 books. After interviewing 500 thought leaders, which is what he's going to be talking mostly about today, right?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and on credibility, he created Credibility Nation Community, and he's going to tell us more about that. What is that? He's published in 5 country international best-selling books and delivered a TEDx, created courses, and is working on getting the definition of credibility rewritten in the dictionary. And I want to know, are you just saying that as a tongue-in-cheek thing, or are you actually trying to get it changed?
No, actually trying to get it changed. Well, I'll tell you why. So,
Okay, yeah, please. Let's start with that. That last part, because that was really interesting. I'm like, really, you can do that? Can you really get words changed?
actually, if you look at the definition of the word vaccine prior to COVID and post-COVID, the definition dictionary was changed.
Oh,
So,
that's interesting. That's a
so
whole nother conversation,
yeah,
I'm
I was
sure.
going to say I almost didn't say that because I don't want to go down that route. So,
Sure, sure.
so the definition in the dictionary today for the word credibility
Hmm.
is the quality in which someone is trustworthy. Now, what I'm going to say to you, that's only 1/3 accurate.
Okay.
First, let me tell you why that is, and then I'll give
Tell
you
us
the update.
why.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I probably said this last time, but I'll say it again. In the world where there were gatekeepers, the books that we read were brought to us by the publishers. The music we listened to were brought to us by the recording studios. The actual actors we saw on the big screen and little screen were brought to us by the broadcast
Mm.
studios.
Yep.
Now that we all have a camera and a microphone, those gatekeepers are gone.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I know.
let's use the example of the show as an example. Let's use the example of a book publisher. When a book publisher said, "Hey, buy this book from this author, they are credible."
Mm.
Let me tell you what they really meant. Hey,
Okay.
you could trust this person to solve your problem. Buy the book so we can make money.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So now, because we all have a camera and microphone, we don't buy just because we think we trust somebody. We're not sure. We want to make sure that we know, like, and trust them.
Mm.
And
You
by
want to
know,
get to
it's not that
know
I
them.
know
Yeah.
of them.
Yep.
It's I actually need to know who they are and what they stand for. And do they have the intent and commitment to do the right thing? Do they have integrity? Are they a servant leader? Right. So what ended up happening, Adam, I came up with 10 skill sets that are broken into the pillars of know, like, and trust. And so that's the updated definition that I'm working to get to make happen.
Oh, nice. And how do you do that? What's the process with that?
Well, first you just start popularizing it. And
Mm.
what I'll give you a easy. So I think what'll be easier is creating a new word than updating an existing one. So I'll do both. So I'll tell you about a new word I created. Okay. The new word I created a couple, but one that I love is called cred dust. Cred dust.
Oh, I like
So,
that.
so if you want to Google it, CREDUST. So if you want to Google cred dust, I actually created a web page because I picked up creddust.com. Cred dust is that sparkle that happens when you share somebody else's ideas, thoughts, or actions. It's something we already do. Like good speakers when they're on stage, good guests when they're on your program are going to mention other people. They're going to talk about other cool things that other people have done. To me,
Yeah.
that's called spreading cred dust. And
Quotes. They
so
do
I
the
want to get
quotes
the
too.
word cred dust in the dictionary. And so what happened is one of my interviewers was a guy by the name of David Meerman Scott. For
Okay.
those that don't know David, he invented the word newsjacking.
Okay.
And newsjacking is when news are happening and you associate your product or service to that news so you can get yourself in the news. When I said to David in the green room, hey, David, how do I get credibility out there? This is really exciting to me. He goes, Mitchell, invent a word.
Mm.
And I go, okay, cred dust. he goes, well, first he goes, Mitchell, you could take 6 months. It took me a while to figure out. No, I go, David, it's the right word. I just don't know if it's 1D or 2. And
Well, we're probably
goes,
we make up words all the time. We just didn't actually make the effort to put it into like a actual use for around the world, like you are.
yeah. Well, in this case, what he went on to say is don't put a copyright on it. Don't put a trademark on it. Just go ahead and put it out there so people can see it's you. So that's why if you went to creddust.com, what you'll do is it looks like a definition page. It's got a video of me giving the definition. It has, a little thing with a sound bite so you could hear me say the word. And so it's to popularize a word. And so it might be easier with cred dust and cred crud to get them in the dictionary than to get the actual definition updated. But I am working on that.
Great. I like this question we put down is that because it would always irritate me whenever I'd go to CEO space or networking event that they knew this phrase. You'll know exactly what I'm saying in a second. What's your value proposition? What's your value proposition? And sometimes it'd be like, well, it's different. Well, what's your value proposition? Well, it's different than this one. Sometimes people just buy it because it's different. And I have a supplement that I was selling. But why do you feel like we were led wrong for leading with the value proposition?
By the way,
And maybe explain that to people. What is that?
It's a really beautiful
what
thing.
that is.
So let's talk. A value proposition is typically something where you start with the word I or we. So what's your value proposition? I work with this class of clients to provide this type of service. That's typically if you're doing a supplement. I'm representing a supplement company that helps you, and then you fill in the blank, right?
Sure.
Now, here's the problem. When you first meet somebody, and the first thing that comes out of your mouth is I or we, what the person on the other side may do, so there's a percentage of the people I interviewed. I've now interviewed over 600. So there's a percentage of the people who I've interviewed who they just get glassy-eyed and they put on their salesperson blockers because you're using I or we. They think you're selling them something.
When you are.
And you are. And so the problem with saying your value proposition, it starts with I or we, and some percentage of the population are going to tune out for the next 30 or 60 seconds.
True.
Right. So one of the things that came out of the interviews is that the first thing you want to do is if somebody says, what do you do? I could tell you how to do that. A better way to say it is a better way to think about it is thinking about being a servant leader. Servant leaders, one of the first criteria of being credible is being a servant leader. So the question becomes, who do you serve? Like, who are your customers? Who are your prospects? And what pain or what pleasure do they want? I call it a CPOP, a customer point of pain. So what is the, now today people don't yet say, what is your CPOP? What is your customer point of pain? If I have my way, they will be saying, what is your CPOP? And so I'll tell you what mine is, and then I'll tell you how to use it in a sentence.
Okay, great.
So mine is very simple. Businesses that feel invisible. Because here's what's 4 words, right? I by the way, some people give their value propositions in 5 or 10 minutes. You ever sit there at a cocktail party and somebody's talking about what they do for 10 minutes? Yeah. Imagine if somebody just said 4 words.
I love that.
4 words. Now, if I said 4 words and the person had zero interest, just zero interest, because the proper response, if the person is interested either for themselves or someone they know, the proper response is, oh, tell me more.
Yep.
And when they say, tell me more, that's when you give your value proposition.
Yep. Yep. So you're
Okay.
giving like a headline kind of, right?
You know, I don't want to use I don't want to use sort of marketing language, because part of what credibility is, part of what I'm doing is helping people have a common language. So the way I look at it instead, Adam, is you're creating a container. So maybe it's in the old days, remember you go to a playground, you're creating a playground that you play in, businesses that feel invisible. And then the person gets to decide, hey, is that me or is there somebody I know? I'm kind of curious. Let me know more. Right. So
Yeah.
you're creating a container that, or like I said, I think I've been using container forever, but I think this show is going to be the place where I'm going to say playground. So you're
Okay.
creating a playground, because remember when
Sounds
we
like
were
fun.
kids,
Sounds like
we
more
go,
fun than a container. Yeah.
yeah, we go to a playground, we go to a sandbox,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then we'd make friends. Right. So, and that's really what credibility is, what engagement is going forward. What business is going forward is engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Engagement is not telling somebody, hey, come and buy my stuff. That's not engaging, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Engaging is
Exactly. Like,
listening,
oh, okay,
right?
let me help you out. Right.
Exactly.
Mm.
So that's the thing that's interesting. And so Adam, in the interviews, this number is going to be crazy. 98% of the people who I interviewed could not articulate who they served and the pain point they addressed. 98% could not articulate their CPOP.
Yeah.
Take it a step further.
I remember reading that. Yeah.
98% could not articulate their purpose in 10 words
Wow.
or less.
Oh, that's what I saw. Yeah, I see it. So why do you say that is? You
Well,
must have an
it's
idea.
I think what I came to the conclusion of is that we've been taught wrong.
Mm.
We've been taught in so many different ways. Like you were taught when you go to business school, you need a 30-second elevator pitch. You need a value proposition. The first things you say is you ram down somebody's throat who you are and what you do in case they're interested. And
Yeah, yeah,
that's not engaging,
yeah. It's not.
right? And
I,
so
we
if
were
you're
talking about dating a second ago. For me, obviously, and
happily married, 33 years.
yeah, that's what I said. For me, in case you're watching, it was for me, not for him. Um, but I was like, I finally got why women would get bored of getting the same questions, because I started seeing some of that, and I couldn't stand being asked, "What do you do? What do you do?" I'm like, it doesn't matter what I do. You don't care. You just, it's like like you said, they're taught wrong. It's just a label to try to come up with some kind of template of what kind of person you are. And I think that's
Mm,
kind of what you're hitting upon. But that's in the dating world, because you said you want to see if they're interested. But
that's
you could be an
interesting.
attorney, and you could be a developer on the side, or you love to buy golf clubs or whatever. It doesn't matter what your work is, right?
Ah, actually, so let me give you something else that just the problem with having a CPOP, because it starts with who you serve. So businesses or leaders or professionals or CEOs of billion-dollar companies, right? The problem with that is somebody says, "What do you do?" You can't start. It feels like a mid-sentence thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, Adam, this is something that came out at an event I went to a couple of weeks ago, and it was really powerful. When somebody says, "What do you do?" What you could say instead is, and the types of clients that are attracted to me are, right? And then give it a second pause.
Mm.
So I'll do the whole thing. You say, "Hey, Mitchell, what do you do?" Types of clients that are attracted to me, businesses that feel invisible,
Mm.
right? Because then you've made it's really like a compound sentence.
Oh, and it's interesting. You're like, oh, what does that mean? Tell me more, like you said, yeah.
And then on the tell me more, that's your value proposition. And what I recommend for people, figure out how to do it in 30 to 60 seconds. If somebody says, "Tell me more, businesses are invisible," I'll give you a quick one. And I'll do it in less than a minute. Sometimes people feel invisible because they don't have a good presence on a particular social media platform. And I'll ask the question, why? You don't
Mm.
have a presence on Facebook. Are your clients and prospects on Facebook? No. Why do you care if you don't have a good presence on Facebook? Second thing, and I'll say is, if 98% of 600 people cannot articulate who they serve and the pain point they address, even if they're well known, I would say they're invisible.
Mm.
And so credibility is, in terms of the stuff we do, how can you allow people to actually see you, engage with you, like you, trust you, be able to understand that you're someone that they should interact with?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. That's really good. So you were saying that, what would you say that you looked at? This is kind of a different subject, and that's why I want to get to that question. Is that you looked over 100,000 LinkedIn profiles, right? Now, why did you do that? And I mean, obviously, it probably has something to do with what makes one credible, but what were you drawn to, and why did you do that? Like, how did you come up with the decision? Oh, this is a credible person.
So you have two questions. So let me answer the first one. The first one is why 100,000 profiles plus, and then the second one is what makes somebody credible. Okay. I was one of the first 25,000 to use LinkedIn.
Nice.
What I do have this in my LinkedIn profile. I was actually contracted by Reid Hoffman and Konstantin Gerlich, two of the five founders, to actually ghostwrite and publish LinkedIn's first book.
Oh, nice.
And so I've been involved with LinkedIn, looking at profiles, helping people set up the structure, helping people be more credible for, since probably within the first year that LinkedIn came out.
Nice.
Being in Silicon Valley, you often get to see all these new things popping out up front. And it turns out, given that most of my clients will come from LinkedIn, it's the right place to be. Okay. Now, what I'll go on and say something really yucky. 99% of LinkedIn profiles suck. Right? Now, why is that? Because LinkedIn originally was for an online resume, but it quickly morphed to something else.
Sure.
Humans still think it's an online resume. And let me just put a different thought in your head. Think about LinkedIn is a online search engine for people to solve their pain point and for them to find you. Right? So what you want to think about is, if you know your CPOP and you structure your LinkedIn profile around your CPOP, if somebody says, I have a problem with, or I need help with, or I need to find an expert that, and you fill in the blank, does your profile pop up?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, that'd be one of the things I'd say. So in the interviews, once I get to know, like, and trust somebody, I'm definitely somebody who I really want to see the inside of people. I want to see who they are, what makes them tick. Once I get to really, really get to know somebody, I then would go and look at how they showed up on LinkedIn, how they showed up on other social media, how they showed up on their website. And what I'd say is 80% of the people who I really got to know, like, and trust really had a horrible asynchronous presence. Right. So synchronous is what you and I are doing now, Adam. When you're interacting with somebody, when you go to a website, that's asynchronous when they're not around. When you're creating an online program that is recorded and people look at, that's asynchronous. So the question is, if somebody goes and sees you on any of the social media platforms you have or on your website, can they instantly know your CPOP? Can they instantly know who you are and how you serve?
Sure.
Because the answer has to be yes, or else they'll go to the next person.
Okay. So
that's the why 100,000 LinkedIn profiles. It's where I play. It's where I live. I've been doing it for a long time, and it's one of the things we have in the community Credibility Nation. I actually have a 1-hour course that allows people to dissect the LinkedIn profile into 5 different segments and how to actually attract people per segment. Right. And so
how do you get to that course? Is it attached to your website, I take it?
It's part of Credibility Nation. So credibilitynation.com. And my free gift at the end will actually let people be able to take one of our other courses, the CPOP course, That'll be a free gift, and that'll get people into Credibility Nation and to be able to take the customer point of pain course.
Can you mention a little bit about that, the free gift?
Oh, sure.
We're not over yet, but I like to put it in little places.
Oh, no,
Sometimes if they don't make it to the end of the video, they got it at 20 minutes.
I love it. So for me, I kind of look at it as sort of the answer to life, universe, and everything when you're trying to engage with somebody. And I'm gonna, now that we've had this conversation, Adam, I'm gonna think about what would be a CPOP when you're engaging with somebody else. I still think it's who gets attracted to you, but I'll have to think about that, right? And so the thing is, if 98% of people, including well-known thought leaders, cannot articulate their purpose, cannot articulate their customer point of pain in 10 words or less, how cool would it be if you went to a course that's only a half hour long that would take the knowledge level of me having interviewed 500 thought leaders on credibility and to allow you to articulate something that may, and I say it will, but you have to say for yourself, that may actually allow you to present yourself in a way where people can see you.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a half hour course. We sell it separately. It's bundled into Credibility Nation. For those of you who want to go to credibilitynation.com, you could just sign up for today. We have the services we deliver are worth $97 a month. We have priced Credibility Nation though at $100 a year. And with this gift, you get access to Credibility Nation between now and the end of the year and access to the CPOP course. And I think should I be reading that out loud, or can you put that in the chat?
I can put it in after we're done, it looks like.
Okay.
I can't do it now. Otherwise, I would have added it already. I tried to, but.
All right. So there'll be a URL. There'll be a URL where you can get to that.
Yeah, I'm posting it now, actually.
Can you
still see me?
I can still see you.
Great.
So one question was LinkedIn. The second question is what makes somebody credible? And what I want to say is probably the best way to start, if you want to learn a little bit more about that, is I actually did a TEDx focused on credibility. And what the TEDx is titled, "We Are Losing Our Humanity, and I'm Tired of Watching It Happen." I mean, it's really powerful. And I truly feel
it's true
that the secret to bring back our humanity, you look at the world, and the thing is, we in the US have been sheltered from what happened in the rest of the world. And all of a sudden, the last couple of years, we're like, wait, what country do I live in again?
Yeah, no, I know. It's like, I know where you're leaning from the conversations we've had, which is fine. Right.
Oh, one way or the other.
You said, but yeah, it doesn't matter. Like,
but here's
it's interesting to hear different points of view, how people share like that. But I agree, and that's one of the problems. Was it your son or your nephew or someone? That's why dating's been so hard. We've been losing our humanity. It's like, it's just weird. People are fickle, right? I'm not that fickle because I went through so much with my parents. I do have some things I'm looking for, but if you have those things, I don't really care what you do for work or what your goals are or whatever. There's a bunch of things that
it's who you are.
I got close to my humanity. Yeah. I had to take care of them. I had to let go a lot to show up. And I get what you're saying about, you're tired of seeing people lose our humanity. Maybe you could share a little more about that. What do you mean by that? Could you share some more about that?
Yeah. No, I
I'll
can't.
put in a phrase of a question.
Yeah. Could I? Yes, of course. What I thought I might do, and I'm gonna look it up. So I'm gonna go to another screen because when I get nervous on a thing, I may not read it right. I want to read the pledge that's associated with Credibility Nation. And the reason the reason I have to read it is versus say it. I could say it off the top of my head, but for some odd reason, whenever I get on a station, I like completely go blank. So I'm going to read. I'm going to read the pledge. In essence, what it says is no hate and servant leadership. Right. So let me read it, and then I'll answer your question. Why are we losing our humanity?
Yeah, please do.
All right. I pledge to live credibly every day without hate in my life. I strive to be a good human and make this a better planet for myself, my family, and other people's families in this generation and the next.
Mm-hmm.
It's really simple.
That's great.
It's basically the opposite of here. Let me read you the 10 components associated with people who are to me the opposite of credible is dubious. So I'm going to read you the 10 components associated with that. So I have to look up to see it. So, oh wait, let me grab it off the page because for some odd reason it is such a tight thing. So I'll read it here.
No worries.
All right. Here are 10 components of people who are dubious, and then I'll read the 10 components of people who are credible. And by the way, it is okay to be in the middle. Oh, what I did say is go to YouTube or go to TED and just type in Mitchell Levy TED Talk or type in "We're losing our humanity. I'm tired of watching it happen." That's too long.
Oh, good.
Mitchell Levy TED Talk.
You talk about your TED Talk. Okay, that's great.
So the dubious, selfish, manipulative, hateful, deceitful, narcissistic, rude, inauthentic, dishonest, never wrong, know-it-alls. Like, do you want people like that in your life? Now, those are all the really bad words. Let me give you all the good
The
words.
know-it-alls would say yes.
Though, of course they would. Thank you. But that's not who we want to engage in, particularly if honestly, we don't know the answers, because life with COVID and with technology and with everything that's happening, the world of tomorrow is so, and limited resources, the world of tomorrow is so much different that we actually really don't know it all. And so we have to figure out how do we live, survive, thrive together.
Yeah.
But let me leave on a positive note. Here's the credible side: selfless, benevolent, loving, virtuous, generous, revered, authentic, honorable, vulnerable, lifelong learners.
Mm.
And so you asked me what is dubious, or why are we losing our humanity? Some of the elements associated with being dubious are being looked at as important. Some of the elements associated with dubious are being taught as this is the way we should be.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, it's not what your mom taught you. It's not what your grandmother taught you. It's not the way we were originally brought to this planet. And for some people to teach it, they may not be malevolent. They may not actually be mischievous. They may do it because they're teaching you something that they learned and it worked for them, so they want to share it with you.
Well, everything works. Everything works for people, but does it really work? I think, right?
Does it work for everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Just because it works for you and you could make money, does that mean you should screw other people? The answer is no.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, though, is let me see if I can articulate it better. Just because you're making money and there's a perception that's working, it doesn't really mean it's working. You can make $1 million a month being dubious, but is that really working? Yeah,
Perfect.
You have money, but what did you lose to get that? What happened on the way, right?
Adam, I thank you. Well said. Agreed.
Yeah. So how, if people wanted to connect with you, how would they do it? The best way, again, if we could say, I have the link right there, but could you tell us again what you're offering?
Yeah. Well, go to credibilitynation.com.
Mm-hmm.
The link, I'll just say it just for those who are listeners. It is aha.pub, AHA.pub, and then it's / oh, it's so long. Sorry for reading it. CPOP, CPOP course gift. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
But go to credibilitynation.com, or if this inspired you and you want to play or be actively involved in Credibility Nation and you need a call with me, just go to my website, mitchelllevy.com, and you could book time on my calendar. Love to see you in Credibility Nation first, and then we'll happy to talk and let's actually change the course of humanity. Let's make us more humane.
That's really great. That's really great. Thank you for that. Where your TED Talks, where can they find that? Is it just on TED?
They're both on TED and on YouTube. I typically, if you go into Google and you just type in Mitchell Levy TED Talk, there'll be both the first and second one that popped up. The second one, the one that is relevant on credibility is we are losing our humanity, and I'm tired of watching it happen.
Okay, that's great. And what's the one thing you could share with our listeners and viewers that they could do to attract more clients by working on their credibility? What's the one thing you'd say? If they took anything away, what's the most important thing you saw?
You know, we talked about it actually throughout, but I want to reinforce it. If you can articulate who you serve and the pain point you address in 10 words or less, guess what happens? You're memorable. If you're memorable, you're shareable. And if you're credible, people are going to want to share you because they feel like they're giving a gift. So in the world in which everyone has a microphone and a camera, and you have all these competitors, you need word of mouth marketing. You need people to want to share you. And how best can you do it? You give them a tool. What's the tool to give them? Give them your CPOP. So it's when somebody says, "Hey, I'm invisible. People don't see me these days. Let's talk to Mitchell Levy." And then fill in the blank. What's yours? What is your CPOP, and how do you share you with others credibly?
How long did it take you to be able to turn around everything you're saying? Because you've been able to deliver it over and over again. How long did it take you to get that? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
The CPOP, the credibility, the 10 words. It's all, you have your language down just great.
Well, so there's a couple of things. It took me a year to interview the 500 people. Basically, I set up Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons. I did 10 to 12 interviews each, and I did that for a year. And it's a great question. By the way, when I realized that it was a CPOP and you can't say I or we, it actually, because nobody else in the world was doing that, it took me 2 to 3 weeks to train myself not to say it anymore. And sometimes when I talk to people, I expect them or want them to do it in 5 to 10 minutes. It's not always easy because we have to unlearn what we were taught.
Yeah, that is hard. I've learned, like, as I've gotten older and more experienced and gotten rid of more baggage, I have an easier time reprogramming myself. Okay, I need to do this way now. I need to do this way. Oh, wait, I'm not doing it that way anymore. I'm doing it this way. So thank you very much for sharing that, Mitchell. Thank you for being on the show, the Ultimate Perform Show, performing your best in business and life. Keep your eyes and ears out for our next show coming up, 5 o'clock on weekdays. And you can find us on iTunes, iHeart, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere you want. We're there, pretty much.
Adam, thanks for your time. It was great chatting with you again.
I just want to thank a couple of our sponsors, Dr. Omar at Your Accident Center, Kathy Thompson at BeBalancedLiving.com. Check them out. Thank you very much, Mitchell, and I'll catch you later. Appreciate it.
Take care. See you, everyone. Bye now.